Good morning. Hello, hello.
Another early one for you.
Yep, another early one for me. Sleep is not my friend. It's okay. Did you eat lunch yet?
No, it's 1:15, so it's kind of lunchtime, but
Oh,
it's really hot and
yeah.
I don't have like a massive appetite when it's hot.
Yeah, it's hard to eat when it's hot.
Yeah, so I'm drinking water and we're going to my parents for dinner tonight, which means that we are going to be very well fed.
Yeah.
So I might just skip lunch altogether actually and just wait for the
Oh,
main
okay.
event. Yeah.
Yeah. Wear stretchy pants.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever watch Friends? Are you a watcher of Friends?
No, I've never watched Friends.
Do you know what? I wonder if that's an age thing because I think I was 12 when Friends started and then it was on for 10 years. So it was on for my formative years. But I think you're a good 5, 6 years younger than me. So you would have been like too young to watch it when it started. So I
Yeah.
wonder if I've got friends of a similar age to you that just think that I'm an idiot for watching Friends that just don't get it. So I think it might be an age thing. But there's a character on Friends called Joey Tribbiani, who's an
Uh-huh.
Italian American who loves food. And his thing is Joey doesn't share food. And he just basically his personality is women and eating. And there's a
Uh,
really funny episode where he borrows one of the girls' maternity trousers or pants, as you call them, because they've got the elasticator panel at the front. And he
yeah,
calls them Joey's Thanksgiving pants.
that's funny.
And he wears those to Thanksgiving dinner so that he can essentially eat a whole turkey and still fit in his
Yeah.
trousers.
Yeah.
So that's what I need. I need some of Joey's Thanksgiving pants
Yeah, that's what you
for
need.
dinner tonight. But yeah, no doubt I'll be rolling home.
Picture you being rolled down the hill like Violet and Willy Wonka on the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, yeah, Violet Beauregard.
Yeah,
That will
exactly.
basically be me, and I'll probably be in bed with a hot water bottle. Like, despite the fact it's 32 degrees here, I'll probably be in bed later with a hot water bottle on my swollen stomach, crying. And Julia will just look at me with a face that says, "You brought it on yourself."
No empathy.
Zero. uh, and you've got an exciting day ahead because it's Abraham's first day of footy, or soccer, as you insist on calling it
It
over there.
is. Yeah. Yep. I'm excited. It's his first game today, so we'll see how it goes.
Don't forget to send me a picture of him in his kit with his cleats on.
I won't in his cute little. We got his uniform last night, so I have to get a picture in his uniform.
Yay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking of good stuff, how great was episode 201 of
We've
Station
crossed
19?
over. Yeah,
We've
we've
crossed
crossed
over. We've
over.
crossed over. We're now totes of fish on season 2.
Yep.
And this one was an absolute banger, I thought.
It was good. It was a
And
good
I
episode.
loved the season finale, but I think this was even better. I think this was even a step up from the first half of this kind of, because it was kind of one episode, isn't it, that almost that like straddled the 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And for me, I think this is even better than the season finale. What do you think?
No, I agree. They took a step up for the new season, I think. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Was it the same writer?
it was. Yeah, and the same director. So it was Stacey McKee writing it again, Paris Barkley directing it again, and it aired on the 4th of the 10th, 2018. That's only 20 weeks after the season finale. So they must have renewed Station 19 super early for them to turn it around and get the
Yeah.
season premiere of season 2, pre-production, production, post-production, and then
Yeah.
out 20 weeks from the finale. So I think they must have renewed it just literally like a few episodes in, I would have thought.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. But hey, it's now like the number one rated show on ABC, isn't it?
Yeah.
So good instinct.
Congratulations.
They could
Yeah,
see
that's
they could
awesome.
see it was going places. I mean, it's overtaken Grey's Anatomy,
Hmm.
which takes some doing.
Yeah, because they have a long standing for sure.
Yeah. But shall we dive in
Let's do it.
rather than standing on ceremony? So no cold open again. It matches the format of the first part of it. So the last year's season finale. So last year's season finale, we had a flash forward to what was to come in the episode. Now we've got a flashback to remind us of what happened last time. But that's interspersed with clips of Andy standing on the roof of 19, sort of looking over the city. And then we go to a black screen and the audio of an alarm going off. And through Andy's ever present and still quite annoying voiceover, we're told what this alarm is, and it's the pass device, which we learn is sewn into a firefighter's uniform and goes off if they stop moving for a period of time. It's sort of an automatic man down alarm. And she quite dismally says that if you hear that, what was probably a rescue is now likely a recovery, and that hearing that noise signifies to them they're probably about to say goodbye to one of their own.
Hmm.
So they've set us up with the thought that someone's going to die, I think.
Always.
Yeah, mean.
I know it was mean.
So if we quickly sum up where we were at the end of last episode, so we had Travis left bleeding in a stairwell, having told Warren to save Molly, Molly laying on the stairs with a pneumothorax, and Warren with an impossible decision to make. Then we've got Myra and Vic knocking down a fire way up in the skyscraper. Jack on what was essentially a suicide mission to close all the fire doors on the floor that had the combustibles on it. Andy was about to leave the building upon Jack's request until she heard an explosion, which is when the credits rolled last time. So technically, this episode kicked off with Andy, but since there are just a couple of tiny bits that sort of were scattered in odd places that didn't really fit with Pruitt, Miranda, and Ryan, shall we just do that bit quick and then get into the meat and potatoes?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so Ryan and Miranda arrive with Pruitt in the back of the cop car at Grey Sloan. Ryan tries to call Andy, but it goes straight to voicemail. Then later we see Ryan in the halls of Grey Sloan watching TV coverage of Ripley giving a press conference about the fire in the skyscraper. He's still trying to call Andy with no answer. Then Miranda comes and puts her hand on his shoulder, telling him that Pruitt is now stable and asking him if he'd managed to get hold of Andy. He tells her no, that she must still be in the building somewhere, and she says, yes, so's my husband. So that's all we see of them for a bit.
Yep.
So then if we jump, do you have anything to say about that, or?
No, it was pretty straightforward to
It
the
was,
point.
yeah. So if we jump straight into the drama then, with Andy in the stairwell, she's radioing to Ripley that there's been an explosion, that firefighters are trapped, but he says he can't deploy anyone because the structure's unsafe, and that he issued the pullback order for a reason, and that he can't lose any more firefighters. That includes her, and then he orders her to get out. Then the elevator that Jack sent Dean down in has now reached the ground floor. Dean is still desperately trying to radio Jack while he drags the victim out of the building into safety. And then Ripley overhears Dean saying that he's going back in and tells him he is absolutely not to do so. Then he radios Andy, reissuing his order to her to get out, to which she literally says, screw that, and heads up the stairs. She bumps into Vic and Maya on her way up, and they're coming down. And Maya says that Andy needs to get out of there, but she doesn't listen. She tells Maya that Jack's still up there and keeps going. So Maya sends Vic down to get more help whilst she follows Andy up. And then we get a flashback. We get tons of flashbacks in this episode,
We
sort of
do,
these
yeah.
kind of mini origin stories, which personally I really loved. Did you enjoy those?
Yeah, I thought it was a good break from the skyscraper scene because that was so intense, and it gives us
Yeah.
a back kind of a backsplash
Yeah.
to those scenes. So it was well done, very well done.
I thought it was brilliant. And also, the first season was mostly scene setting, wasn't it? Kind of surface look at everybody. And I loved that with these flashbacks and then putting them in the season premiere, it kind of then sets us up straight away for getting a more in depth look at everybody from the get
Yeah,
go. So yeah, really, really liked it. So we get a flashback to Maya and Andy's first day at the West Seattle Fire Academy. And we learn that that was 5 years ago. And Maya comments that she and Andy are the only two women out of 28 recruits. And Andy then just says, tuck your shirt in to Maya. And Andy recognizes Maya as an Olympian. So she must have been, well,
yeah,
we know that she was on the Wheaties box, don't we? So
yeah,
that
yeah,
comes up later on. So Maya must have been a pretty darn big deal. But Maya recognizes Andy as well and knows that she's Pruitt's daughter. And not only that, she's impressed with the fact that Andy didn't lead with the fact that she's a legacy firefighter. Andy tells Maya they don't have to be friends just because they both have vaginas.
yeah. Well,
Um,
that line I wasn't too sure about. I was like,
no.
okay,
Yeah. I mean, I've sort of tried to justify it for Andy.
okay,
Maybe I'll ask you about your feelings about it before I try and justify it later, maybe. But Maya doesn't seem. I would be more phased than Maya with that comment. Maya thought handled it
yeah,
quite well, and just says there's safety in numbers, and they're the only two people with vaginas there, and so they should probably be sticking together. Then we return to the here and now with Maya chasing Andy up the stairs, and she echoes Academy Maya by telling Andy again that they're sticking together whether she likes it or not. Then if we stay, I know that I'm kind of doing it a little bit out of order at this time because it was quite frenetic. So if you're happy, I'll just stick with Andy and Maya for now
okay,
rather than
yeah,
going to the next scene, sort
yeah,
of chronologically. So Andy and Maya reach the door that will lead them to Jack, but they can't get it open. And Maya's running through all of the problems that could be on the other side of the door that are preventing them from opening it, telling Andy that basically every single one of them could kill them, and asking if it might be safer for them to wait for backup. But Andy snaps at Maya and says she should go if she doesn't want to be there. And then we flash back again to the academy. This time they're running hoses in weighted vests, and Andy's sort of collapsed to the floor, saying she can't do it anymore. And Maya questions why she's struggling, assuming that Pruitt's been running hoses with Andy since she was in nappies or diapers, to use your
right.
vernacular. But Andy says that he refused to train her until she'd passed the academy so that he knew she was serious about firefighting. And then we get a really great swipe from Maya who says, has he met you? You're always serious. And then the male recruits basically start mocking Andy for, being in a heap on the floor. And Maya gives what we have to assume is her first motivational speech to Andy, saying you can't give it to these guys, and that if she stops moving, it will be like the past device. She's as good as dead, so she has to keep
Yeah,
going. And then Maya kind of scoopies down, gets right next to Andy on her level, and starts cheering her on. And when we return to the here and now at the skyscraper fire, Andy says she's not stopping until she gets through the door. And then Maya uses her brain over brawn. And rather than desperately trying to pry the door open, she positions her axe thing so that they can knock the screws out of the hinges together and then just pull the whole door away from the frame. So then Maya and Andy are kind of fumbling around in the dark when they hear Jack's pass device. And Maya tries to keep Andy calm by telling her that she needs to treat it like any other rescue. She can only go as fast as she can go. and they're moving bits of furniture out of the way, still making their way through the dark, when we get another flashback, which is now 2 years ago at 19. And Maya's got her locker open and she's got her runner's number and her gold medal from the 2012 Olympics hanging up in there. And Jack approaches her asking if he can touch it for luck. It's nice to know that he's always been a bit of an idiot.
Yeah.
And she goes into one of her classic Maya monologues, telling him how many hours and miles she put in all weathers just to qualify, let alone what it took for her to actually compete and put in her best time on a sprained ankle.
Right.
Don't forget the sprained ankle. Telling him that it had absolutely nothing to do with luck. It was blood, pain, and hard work. And as such, the medal is not a lucky charm. It is a reminder of how much tougher she is than every single other person at the station. To which Jack just nonchalantly says, "Yeah, but can I touch it?" So Maya slams her locker door shut, almost trapping his fingers in the process, before Andy arrives and says, "Ew," about Jack. Maya agrees, "Yeah, very ew."
Do you think that ew was sincere?
No, and I've put that in my notes to ask you
Ooh,
about
I got in your notes.
afterwards.
Okay.
You got in my notes. We share a brain a lot of the time, I'm telling you.
We do.
And back at the skyscraper, Andy thinks that she's located where the pass device alarm is coming from, and they find Jack trapped beneath a load of furniture and stuff, out for the count with a gash on his head. They pull him out, he opens his eyes and tells Andy that he told her to go. And she says, "Since when do I ever listen to you?" And, or anyone, Andy, I would add. And then he thanks her for finding him. And the next time we see Andy and Jack, they're safely outside on the aid car with Andy checking his breath sounds, and they start bickering the way they used to bicker when they were still playing Scrabble regularly. And she says that he's looking at her funny, and he says that's because when he got stuck in the vent and he was basically cooking alive and knew it was all over for him, all he wanted to do was remember Andy. But he says that he remembered her wrong because something's changed.
Yeah.
And then Maya brings Andy's phone over, saying it's been going off non-stop, and then tells Gibson that he looks terrible. And then Andy answers her phone and looks concerned. And then that's the last we see of Maya, actually. So, I mean, for me, there's so much to unpack in these flashbacks of Maya and Andy at the academy.
Yeah.
But you go, thoughts, feelings,
Um,
questions,
just for the flashback at the academy.
wherever you want to start. You start. The floor is yours.
I enjoyed the flashbacks. I thought they were funny. I feel like they made Andy way more serious than she is now. Or either that or she's just over time grown to not be so
Yeah,
serious. Um, the comment about because we both have vaginas, we don't have to be friends was like, wait, what? Like it just was kind of like a kind of offstandish comment to me.
yeah,
But I appreciated Maya's response and how she was just like, okay. Um, I really liked Maya in the
yes,
flashback scenes. I liked her more than I liked Andy, and I think that they were very well done. Um, I appreciated her in the training scene as well. I was kind of surprised how quickly Andy was willing to give up, because that's something we don't see. Andy's kind of pretty stubborn when it comes to that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So they kind of portrayed her as being a little bit weak in that scene, which surprised me. Or just because of the Andy that we know now would be like, she kind of is like push, push, push as well as
yeah,
Maya. But I really appreciated Maya's encouraging scenes in those, or just encouraging moments in those scenes
yeah,
too. What about you?
yeah. I think it shows that Andy has always needed Maya more than Maya's needed Andy.
Mm.
I
Okay.
mean, literally, that would have been her wrung out of the academy if it hadn't been for Maya.
Yeah, she wouldn't have
Yeah.
pushed her, right?
And she didn't have the motivation
Yeah.
herself. It was Maya having to get down there and say, come on, you know. And the thing with the vagina comment, the only way that I can justify it for Andy is to say that maybe she's not had many female relationships and that she's more at ease with men because she's
Mm-hmm.
obviously been raised by a single father. She's spent most of her life in a fire station and would have been lucky to see a female firefighter anywhere. And then we learn later on that her father stopped her seeing her aunt and her female cousin. So she would have had no. I don't think that she really would have had much contact with women at all. And I think she's used to being like one of the lads in a way. But also,
Mm-hmm.
the men
Mm-hmm.
that she's been socialized with are all older men. They're all going to be like her dad's friends or the guys at the station. I mean, apart from obviously Ryan. So her view of men and her relationship with men is going to be like that she's always been cosseted and protected and seen like this little girl. And I think she's only been around men who want to protect her and cheer her on. And so I think that she probably has gone in there, you know, all like Betty Big Balls, saying to Maya, we don't need to be friends.
Mm.
I don't need you, because in her world, she's always raised up by men. But what she doesn't realise, which Maya will have done in a more balanced environment, is that in this situation, where there's only the two of them and it's a very male oriented environment, they're going to be she's not going to be one of the boys. She's not going to be taken care of. She's not going to be cosseted. They're going to see them, Andy and Maya, as kind of prey. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we'll weed them out
Yeah.
first. And I think Maya's worldly wise enough to understand that. And so kind of then obviously says to Andy, I think you'll find safety in numbers is going to prevail here.
Yeah.
But what I think is also brilliant is that Maya clearly didn't need Andy. Like she said, that safety in numbers is great, but obviously Maya's a tough physical specimen. She's an Olympic gold medalist, and she obviously wasn't struggling with any of the
Right.
physical stuff. So she could have taken the attitude, oh, if that, and we know that obviously you need to be equally as mentally tough as you are physically tough to be an Olympic champion, to have that sort of self discipline to train and to eat the way that you have to eat, and to, you know, the Fire Academy is nothing for Maya. So she doesn't need Andy. The safety in
Yeah.
numbers is for Andy, not for her. So if, you know, she's trying to ingratiate herself with Andy and then Andy's like, I don't need you, do one. How great of Maya to kind of not just say, that's fine then, and then just separate herself from Andy and do her own thing and let Andy rot. But she doesn't.
It's a good
She
way to look at it.
persists.
Yeah. So Maya's always been a better friend than Andy's been to
Yeah,
her.
even back then. Because how easy would it have been
Yeah.
to go, all right then, off you go, and just leave Andy to her own devices, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I took from those flashbacks.
Yeah. No, that's really a good point.
But what were you going to say about the whole medal and ew situation? What was your thoughts about Maya and Jack in that situation?
I just didn't think the ew was genuine. I think there was something behind it when it came out that maybe she just said it to agree, but that she didn't really believe it or feel that way. That's how I took it.
I thought that like little smile on her face, I thought she was attracted to Jack.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought she kind of liked him a little bit.
So it was
So,
like mega subtle, which we know that Danielle is genius at
yeah.
anyway. But I think that was
Yeah,
a
she
little
is.
foreshadow for us that actually Maya's got a little
Mm,
bit of a
okay.
soft spot for Jack.
So who had more chemistry when they were together, Jack and Maya or Jack and Andy?
I don't really remember Jack and Maya too much because
You have to wait till we get
I
there.
think my brain has probably blocked it out. I think it's
It's just all Karina,
just
that's why.
I think the trauma of seeing Maya with Jack was too much for my little gay brain to take. So I don't remember it too much.
Okay, we'll wait and see because I don't remember them together that much
No.
either. So we'll have to wait and see and then pick because the chemistry between Jack and Andy was just
Dire.
awful. They were just like pecking at each other
Yeah.
the whole
It
time.
was horrendous. It was so uncomfortable to watch. Oh man. Oh, have we covered that off? Have I missed anything? Was there anything you wanted to bring up?
I'm just gonna say I feel like that they have more chemistry together now.
Who?
Like I wouldn't mind seeing Jack and Andy have a second chance together. I feel like they have more chemistry now than they did in the beginning.
Really?
Yes. Like the episode when they go, this is going to be a spoiler alert. Sorry, a spoiler alert coming. Um when they go see his bio brother,
Oh yeah. And they're in the car. They do their little mini road trip.
I felt like there was more chemistry there than in the beginning episodes.
Hmm.
Cuz like when he hurts his hand when he's changing the tire and when she's there for him,
Yeah.
I just felt like there was a little bit more chemistry there. That's all.
Okay, I'll try and pay attention to that.
Mhm.
Interesting. Right. Shall we move on to the section that I've entitled The Great Escape, which is
Okay.
Miller, Warren, Vic, and Travis
Okay.
getting out of the building. So if we pick up back with Miller, is that a good place to start? So he's outside and he's kind of seeing to the walking wounded. And then Molly's mum approaches him looking for her daughter because they'd agreed to meet in their usual spot, but Molly hasn't turned up yet. And Miller says he hasn't seen her, but he'll keep an eye out. And then the next time we see Dean, he's sort of standing amongst all the emergency vehicles and all the chaos, and he's looking worried. And then we get our first Miller flashback to him at the academy, which we learn was 7 years ago. And we see him sitting outside at a picnic table reading selected poems of Langston Hughes, which I love, which I love for him. I just think that's such a
Wasn't
great,
that so funny?
I just think it's such a great insight into Dean because
Yeah, it was funny.
he's later on we find out obviously, don't we, that he's got an MBA and that he's very into social activism, that he takes things, that he's not just like this big muscly guy, like he's got some depth to him. So I loved seeing that
Yeah,
poetry
I
book. I
agree.
loved seeing that poetry book in his hand. Loved it.
Which, when we meet his mom, we can understand
Oh
why.
yeah, yeah, 100%. That woman's a powerhouse. But no, I loved seeing the Langston Hughes book in his hand, and then
Yeah, and then you have Jack just, which, by the way, hold on, I would have gotten irritated a lot quicker than Dean with the crunching of the apple in the ear. I'm just gonna say, I would have been like, get that apple out of my ear right now.
yeah, I thought he was really rather patient, but just the juxtaposition of like then Jack just sauntering up, biting an apple, telling Dean that he intends to beat his time in some test or another, and then goading and goading and goading him. There's quite contemplative, deep thinking Dean, and then this idiot with his apple.
Yeah,
So then Dean has a bit of a flare up, leaving, saying that Jack's not worth it. And we flash back forward to today with Dean now asking Ripley if he's saying it's not worth it to go back in and get Jack and the rest of his team. I'm loving these little sentence repeats, like echoing words from the past now in the present.
Yes, how they connect.
It was
Yeah, I agree.
such a nice tool to use. It's like a literary version of a match cut. What is it? Is
Wow.
it ana,
Okay. Yeah.
is it anaphora? I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what kind of literary technique it is, but I just know that it's great and that I love it.
Yeah, it was masterfully done
Yeah.
for sure.
So Dean pleads with Ripley, saying that Ripley can spare him because he's got every first responder in the city at the scene. But Ripley says the sad truth is he can't, and that's his final call. But of course, Dean ignores him, gears up, and then runs towards the skyscraper. We now see Warren, I believe for the first time since we left him, with his dilemma of who to save. And we now see him dragging Molly down the stairs the way he was dragging Travis down the stairs before. And he tells her that he's going to get her downstairs, get a chest tube in her, and then go back for Travis. That's the plan. But then Molly stops talking and turns blue. So he finds an EpiPen in her bag and uses that to put the chest tube in right there and then, right in that stairwell before carrying her down the stairs. So he can't drag her anymore because it's unstable. So he's got to scoop her up and carry her down. And as we remember, Maya had sent Vic down for help whilst she went back up with Andy. So now on her way out of the building, Vic finds Travis bleeding out in the stairwell. And now we get a flashback going back 18 months to Travis and Vic at 19 together. And Vic's being her usual Vic-like brash self, and Travis is patiently trying to get her to dial it back. And she says to him that he doesn't know her or what she's been through. And it's at that point that he cuts in to say that his husband just died 2 weeks ago, before telling her that if she doesn't calm down, she's not going to make it through all this. Flashback forward to now, and Vic is telling Travis that he will make it through all this before dragging him down the stairs, where he's leaving a worryingly ample trail of blood. And then the next time we see them, Travis is in pain and asking Vic to stop. And she says that if he's hurting, he still has enough life left in him to care, so there's not a chance. And then we get our next Vic and Travis flashback to him running stair drills with Vic, and this time she's asking him to stop, but he's saying it's for her own good and the good of their future victims. She says that he's treating her like a child, so he says it back in a mocking tone, which kind of breaks the tension, and they both laugh. But when she says, "Who died and made you my boss?" the tension floods straight back in, and he says he's not asking her again
Yeah.
and tells her to do the stairs. Then we return to their current predicament on the stairs. Travis has now passed out, but Vic's still talking to him, and she says, "I can go faster now since you're not going to feel it," and continues to drag him out of the building. We then see Ben and Molly again, and he puts her down to re-secure the EpiPen chest tube that he's made. And then she's almost trampled again by Dean running up the stairs. And Warren tells him that Montgomery's still up there and to keep going. And Dean says, "So's Jack," and does keep going. And then Dean bumps into Vic next. These stairs, what a brilliant way to have everyone collide and for all these stories to intersect using a stairway.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, it was done really
It was
cool. I
so
agree.
good. Like some people on their way down, some people on their way up, and it was just a way to intersect
Yeah.
everybody and to basically update us on what everybody's doing, for them to update each other, because the radios had gone down, so nobody knew what
Yeah.
anybody was doing. It
Right.
was amazing. Also, there's an amazing Langston Hughes poem about stairs. I've just remembered. It's not about stairs. Oh, I think it's called Mother to Son or something like that. Look it up. Stairs. It's really good.
Oh,
It's really,
okay.
really good. I'm an English nerd, as you know. It's a really good poem. Anyway, Dean bumps into Vic next. She's dragging Travis down the stairs, and he briefly helps her with Travis, but then says that he needs to go and get Jack. And Vic says Maya and Andy are looking after Jack, and that maybe he should help Montgomery, who's the one bleeding out all over her boots. Barrett Doss.
Yeah, I know.
I I'm gonna
Love
I'm
her.
gonna admit something that I don't need to admit, but I feel like I should admit it. I'm gonna lose all my cred as the cold, ice-hearted, stone-hearted, stiff upper lippy Brit because I bawled my eyes out.
When she said bleeding all over my
Yeah, the
boots.
look on her face did me in. I could. I actually cried many times through this episode when I was because I have to do
Oh,
speech to text because I can't type. So I'm basically
yeah.
doing audio description for myself. And I just kept like my voice was it kept going when I was repeating lines or like saying what I could see. My voice was just kept going and I was like, Jesus, pull it together. What is wrong with you? I just found it
It's
so
like cracking in the dictation
yes.
software,
I
your
found it
voice.
so emotional. It was such a good episode. Um, but Dean, I mean, you couldn't say no to that. Nobody could say no to that. so
Right.
so Dean takes his shoulders, Vic takes his ankles, and they make their way down the stairs before we get a further flashback. This time it's Dean's flashback to him and Jack at the academy again. And this time they're both sitting in front of Lieutenant Sullivan's desk. Hint, 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 hint. He's sitting there as if he's their headmaster and he's reading out a list of bad conduct displayed by them, ending with the fact that one of them has struck a fellow recruit, which garners a he started it from both of them. And Sullivan says he doesn't care who started it or about anything else, really. The only thing that he cares about is their ability to find a way to work together and prove they're capable of doing the job, or he won't pass either of them out. And then he misnames Gibson, who corrects him, and Sullivan reiterates that he does not care. Then we see Ben running out of the building with Molly in his arms, screaming for a gurney. Ripley comes over and asks for an update on 19, and Ben tells him that Travis is in there and needs help, and that Jack is in there, as is Miller. And Ripley's surprised and not very happy to hear that Miller's gone back in. And Ben asks if the rest of 19 are safely out, and Ripley just looks away. Then Molly's mother sees her on the gurney, runs over, and they have a tearful reunion. And Molly says that she really didn't think she was going to see her mum again. And Molly's mum grabs Ben and holds him close, thanking him for saving her little girl before he runs to the aid car, telling her to follow them to Grey Sloan. But then Ripley says to Ben that Molly will be lucky to make it to the hospital. And Ben points to him in a very determined way and says they're going to make it. They'll make it. We then see Vic and Miller running out of the building with Travis, and then Vic goes off and tries to catch her breath, and Ripley comes over to her, telling her that she should go and get checked out too, and asks if there's any news on the other members of 19 still stuck in the building, and she scoffs at him and asks him what the hell he cares, saying that he's left them in there to die. And he says it was just protocol, but she argues that he could have made a different choice, but he didn't. And he tells her that he doesn't have the luxury of loyalty the way she does, but that he cares more than she could possibly know. And then, very much as an afterthought, tells her that the next time she comes at him like that, she's fired. Then we see Dean and Jack together for the first time. Dean finds Jack on the back of the aid car where Andy left him and yells at him for putting him on the elevator and not telling him about the plan, and says he can't have Jack's back if Jack's going to treat him like a helpless puppy. And then he says that the only reason he's not punching him right now is because he looks rough and it's making him feel bad, which is annoying. But the minute he's feeling better, he's getting punched. And
Yep.
as Dean walks away, Jack thanks him for not punching him, and Dean yells back, "Yet, not yet."
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end of everyone's escape from the building before we move to the action that's going on at Grey Sloan. So, what did you think of all this? What did you make of it all?
I really liked the way that I appreciated the somatics of it, the way it was shot, and I just thought it was very well done. It was very captivating in keeping us kind of flowing through the storyline. I like the way that the storyline was shown. Um, and just learning about, I don't know, it kind of made it more emotionally connected, seeing the flashbacks and learning about how their bonds developed
Yeah,
and how long they've been together, and then seeing them in difficult situations.
yeah.
Um, One thing I did wonder is how come Dean didn't get reprimanded for being insubordinate to the chief, but Maya did later on.
It was a different chief, though, wasn't it?
It was, but it was a very similar situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that Ripley was a brilliant chief and that he was very even handed.
Yeah.
And I think that he understands. I mean, like he said to Vic, didn't he? I don't have the luxury of loyalty that you do. And so I think he understands their loyalty. And I think that,
So do you think Ripley would have demoted Bishop?
no,
Yeah.
I think he would have put a note in her
Yeah, that
file.
chief was kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
he was
but
just an
he was a
absolute
jerk.
arse. He
Yeah.
was,
Yeah, he
I
was.
think that he is kind of the culmination of all the things that we know about how organizations like that historically have been run. He's like the archetype. That's the word I'm trying to think of. He's like the
Ah, okay. Yeah.
archetypal kind of old school boys club guy, that is very arbitrary about who gets what treatment and who's going to get the golden handshake, who's going to get the pat on the back, who he's going to. And so I think that he's the worst possible person to be the chief, and Ripley is literally perfect for the job. I don't think there's a more perfect man for the job.
Yeah, that you said that well, perfect man for the job because there is a better chief.
Ah, yeah. There you go.
So,
There you go. There you go. But Ripley, everyone's coming at him in this episode, but he's not being defensive. He's not really biting back. He kind of has like a mini pop at Vic, but I don't think that. I mean, can you imagine that idiot with the handlebar mustache putting up with
oh no.
what Vic did? He literally just fired her on the spot. And he wasn't even like that grumpy when he said it to her. I think he was like trying to sound angry. If you do it again, you're going to be put on the naughty step. It wasn't even like, was it?
Well, do we think he liked her already at that point?
Probably. She's got a lot of chutzpah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I loved that he was kind of trying to explain his decision making to everyone and let them know that it was making him feel crappy,
Yeah.
and he is like very gentle with all of them. And I genuinely think that he probably hadn't had a good night's sleep since he'd taken on that job.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree. Okay.
Also, I loved Dean in this episode. Loved Dean. I love how
Okay.
they're like fleshing his character out. And I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't look like a linebacker. He looks like the guy who swallowed a linebacker, doesn't he? He's like he's just enormous, but they haven't made him like this Jim Bro or himbo type of guy. They've got him reading the selective poems of Langston Hughes, for goodness sake. And as I say,
Yeah.
later on we find out he's got an MBA. We know that he becomes an excellent and dedicated father. But I think even now, without all of that kind of future knowledge, I think Dean is just this sweet, cuddly, lovely guy. And the way he conducts himself on this call, I mean, he's one of three members of 19 to disagree with Ripley's call that day, because we've got Andy and Vic and Dean. But he's the only one who doesn't come at Ripley personally. Like, Andy accuses him of abandoning people. And then Vic outright says she doesn't think he cares that there are people still inside. But Miller just tries to reason with him and come up with an actual like suggestion of how to get Jack out, offering himself up. The girls just came at him and said, "You're a bad man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Dean's just like, no, come on, look, we can do this. You've got everyone else here. You can spare little old me. And look, I'll just go up the stairs and we'll do a thing. And he does defy Ripley, ultimately, but he doesn't personally attack him. He's very like diplomatic in the way that he goes about it and tries reasonable avenues before he is forced to go rogue. So I just really appreciate that about him. And like, even with Molly's mum, he was clearly, when Molly's mum was showing him the picture on the phone, you know, he's running from person to person, you know, adjusting things, you know, checking things and, you know, making sure that all of these injured people are okay. And you can see the sort of micro expressions of aggravation on his face, like, oh, lady. And obviously he knows that Jack's still inside, but she wouldn't have known that she was getting on his last nerve because he was still
Hmm.
very gentle with her and very polite with her. I'm sorry, ma'am, I haven't seen her, but I'm going to keep a lookout for her. And I just really appreciate Dean.
Yeah, they really showed his intellectual side, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they showcased it.
and his emotional intelligence, not just his
Yeah. Yeah.
intellect
Emotional
either, his
intelligence for
emotional
sure.
intelligence. I just think that they just show him to be
Yeah.
like a bit of an all round good guy. So yeah. Anything that you wanted to add? Anything that I missed?
Nope.
Shall we head to Grey Sloane?
Yep. Let's head over there.
Okay. So we'll hop on the ambo with Ben then. So because Ben's on his way to the hospital with Molly, who is unresponsive, and he calls it in, much to Miranda's relief at hearing his voice on the other end of the radio. And he gives Miranda the update on Molly, and she says that she'll be ready. And then when she meets him in the ambulance bay, he tells Miranda that he was supposed to save Molly, bless him. And then as Miranda runs into Grace Lane with her, another aid car pulls up carrying Travis. Vic jumps out and Andrea DeLuca comes out.
Yep. The Lukes.
I mean, it's not my preferred DeLuca, but it'll do. And then after Vic's given Andrea the update, Warren tries to talk to her saying, you know, thank God you found Travis. But Vic just shoves past him and gives him a filthy look. At which point we get a further flashback to Vic and Travis. And this time they are sitting outside Grey Sloane in the aid car. And she calls Travis on always avoiding going into the hospitals. And he confides in Vic that he hasn't been able to go inside a hospital since his husband died because part of him feels like once you go in, you're not coming out. So she takes him by the arm up to the front doors. And he says that when he looks at the doors, all he sees is, and she completes the sentence for him in a very glib manner, saying, death. And then we see both of their reflections in the doors. And she says that what she's
Hmm.
seeing, she said, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because what I'm seeing is one hot, hot piece of firefighter man. And then says, let's go, pretty boy, and leads him into the hospital. Flash forward to now, and Andrea's calling for Maggie Pierce. Maggie Pierce is our preeminent heart surgeon. She's like a heart surgeon
Yep.
genius. Because I know you don't watch Grey's. I think you went
Hmm.
out with her for a bit, Maggie. Yeah, I think Andrea went out with Maggie for a bit. Anyway, so he's working furiously on Travis, but he speaks very sweetly and calmly to Vic, asking if it's Travis's blood on her face or her own. He smiles very gently at her and tells her that he's going to get Travis out of there. Ben is sitting with Molly's mother in the waiting room, just basically letting her talk. And she thanks him again for making it possible for her to see Molly. And she asks Ben if he thinks that she's going to ever see Molly again. And he just smiles and says he hopes so. Then Grant tips up because Ben's given him a ring, or called him. As I keep forgetting that I probably don't make sense to you 50% of the time. So Ben's called Grant to tell him about Travis, and Ben updates Grant and says they don't know much yet, at which point Vic arrives and says he's in surgery, looking at Ben pointedly as she says that Travis had almost bled out before she found him. And Grant's confused, saying that he thought somebody would have been with him because he thought they always worked in pairs. And then Ben has to kind of confess that he was with Travis when it happened, but that Travis told him to save Molly. So he'd left him there because he couldn't carry them both. And Grant says that he needs a minute and walks away. And Ben tells Vic that it's fine for her to be mad at him, but it wasn't fair to do that to Grant. And she angrily says that Travis is in surgery. God knows where the rest of the team are, and that Warren has no idea what these people, and then she emphasizes Montgomery, means to her. So she doesn't want to hear his excuses when it's her friends that might not make it out alive. And Molly's poor mum has heard this whole thing. She confides in Ben that Molly didn't know what she wanted to be when she was a child. She didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up. And all she knew was that she wanted to help people. And so Molly's mother tries to console herself by saying that even if Molly doesn't make it, she helped a lot of people out of the building. Says she saved a lot of lives, and Ben agrees. And then, oh god, I'm gonna cry again. Molly's mum says, "Your guy in there, I'm pulling for him." And Ben says that he's pulling for Molly. I'm genuinely going to cry. What a suck! Pull yourself together, Melissa. Jesus. God damn it. Andrea comes out and gives. But don't laugh at me. I blame you for making me a
Why do you
sick.
blame me?
Because you're so soft-hearted and wonderful, and you make me a less cynical person.
Oh, I'll take that. I'll take the blame then.
Thanks, mate. Andrea comes out and gives Ben, Vic, and Grant a very technical medical update about Travis, which Ben translates into layman's terms as basically Travis either makes it off the operating table with flying colours or he doesn't make it off at all. Then Miranda comes out and finds Molly's mother and suggests that they go somewhere more private, but Molly's mother wants the news right there and then, and Ben watches on as his wife tells Molly's mother that she didn't make it. And so then he says that it wasn't supposed to be like that and walks away. Because Vic approaches Ben. She sort of softens up a bit and comes over to Ben, and he says it wasn't supposed to be like this, and he walks away. Vic chases him down and says that she might have been a bit harsh before, and Warren tells her that Montgomery means more to him than she realizes too. And then Vic asks Warren if he thinks that Travis is going to make it, and he doesn't answer her, he just looks away. Now Andy has arrived at the hospital, and we get another flashback, which is her and Maya's graduation day from the academy 2 years prior. So they must be training for 3 years.
Yeah.
Which is like...
That's a decent amount of training.
Yeah, that's the same as a degree.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And Andy's looking for a dad in the crowd. And Maya says that she thinks it's messed up that Pruitt has Andy's adulation, but that he's not there for her when it counts. And Andy says that he gets caught up in his own stuff sometimes. By the way, who does this sound like?
Right.
Yeah. And that he would be there if he could be there. And then we see where Pruitt is instead, and he's at the police station. And it turns out that he's missing Andy's graduation because he's picking Ryan up from jail. Back to the present day, and Ryan is now meeting Andy in the corridor of Grace Sloan, and he tells her what happened with Pruitt, but that he thinks that Pruitt's latest collapse is a sign that the treatment is working, because Bailey says that the cancer is going, and that with any luck, he's just a handful of treatments away from remission. So Andy, never missing an opportunity to find the negative in any situation, realizes that Ryan already knew that Pruitt was unwell before he left the skyscraper and that he'd neglected to tell her. And then we get another flashback. This time it's Andy and Ryan 6 years ago, lying under the stars on the bonnet of a car, with Andy telling Ryan that she's been accepted into the fire academy, and Ryan says he's happy if she is, and she says of course she is, because it's what she's always wanted. But Ryan reminds her that when she was a kid, she wanted anything but to be a firefighter. And he says that she's becoming a firefighter to get closer to her father and not for herself. She gets the ump with him and says she wants to go. So nothing's changed much there. But it's going to take a minute because he's actually hot-wired the car that they've driven there in.
Yeah.
So then returning to present day, and Ryan says to Andy that Pruitt asked him not to tell her, but Andy says that she doesn't think that is why he didn't tell her. She thinks that he didn't tell her because he's trying to protect her. And she says that it's a repeating pattern with Ryan. He protects her and then he deflects. So protect and deflect. And then she says, and every time something bad happens with my dad, I go back and find you. And then Ryan says, well, maybe that's a pattern that needs to stop repeating too, and walks away.
Mm.
Good boy. And then we end as we began, which is with Andy on the roof, because that was all interspersed, wasn't it, with the flashbacks with Andy on the roof.
Yeah.
With her stupid, annoying voiceover. And this time we learn that her standing on the roof is 6 weeks after the skyscraper incident. Maya comes to
Right.
stand by her, of course she does, and gives her a reassuring smile and then tells Andy that they should go. Then we see Travis arrive in his civvies, and Maya and Andy go out to meet him. And Maya hugs him so hard that he's worried that she's going to pop his stitches. And the rest of the team follow close behind. Everyone hugs him except Vic. Before Pruitt and Ripley turn up and join everyone, introducing the new captain of 19, Robert Sullivan. So Jack and Dean shoot each other a bit of a look because, of course, it was Lieutenant Sullivan who trained them at the academy. And Pruitt offers to introduce Sullivan to the team, but he says he'll do names later, and that he's there because Ripley saw a need at the station and he's come to shift a few things around and give them the kick they need. And he wants to start immediately, but Andy says that their shift hasn't started yet and they like to start the day with breakfast upstairs. But he cuts her off, saying that they'll start inside with a uniform inspection. Everyone kind of pauses and he says he won't ask twice and walks into the barn. And they all fall in line, including Ripley and Pruitt. But Andy stays outside. And then that's where we leave everybody. That's the end of the episode. So, tons to unpack.
Yeah, what an introduction to Sullivan.
I know. Where do you want to start with all of that?
I don't know. All I can think about is how I didn't remember how big of a jerk Sullivan was.
Oh, had you forgotten what a nasty guy he was?
I had forgotten, like, that, because he kind of gets humbled when he goes through what he goes through. I mean, he's still kind of, arrogant, but man, he was a jerk as a captain. I didn't remember that. Like, when I rewatched this episode, I thought, dang, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember it.
Yeah. But I was interested, like, I wondered if, well, first of all, I'm going to change her name to Stacey McSneaky from Stacey McKee, because she'd started the episode having Andy say that when you hear that noise, you're about to say goodbye to one of your own. And then she literally left it until the closing scene to show us that Travis was still alive.
Right.
Sneaky.
That was, yeah.
We watched everybody make it through alive, with Andy having foreshadowed usually means that someone's going to snuff it when you hear that noise. And then everyone's fine.
She kind of wrapped it around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was clever. It was very cleverly written. I really appreciated the writing of this episode. But in Sullivan's little speech, he says that Ripley brought him in to shift a few things around. And I wonder if that particular phrase, that he'd been brought in to move stuff around, was literally saying to us that the status quo isn't going to remain and that he is going to move things around. And I wonder if Ripley brought him in because he's obviously seen Maya's potential. And then he's seen the way that Andy and Jack are. And I wonder if in Ripley's head, maybe because Pruitt has kind of run things in a certain way, I wonder if he thinks really that Andy has been promoted because of nepotism and maybe wasn't worthy when he's seen how she's kind of acted. Or maybe that she was fine to be promoted to lieutenant, but that she's got too much power in the house, because the way that she acted, where she just like ripped the keys out of Ripley's hand.
Hmm.
I mean, not being funny, I would have done the same if that was my friend upstairs. No one can blame her, but she is really quite insubordinate, does just kind of do her own thing all of the time.
Yeah.
And she is maybe a little bit too outspoken for a paramilitary organization, where there is very much a hierarchy. I don't think she necessarily has the level of respect that she should have for people who outrank her. And I wonder
Hmm.
if that is
Yeah.
just because she's used to the guy that outranks her being either the bloke that she's sleeping with or a dad. So she's got
Hmm.
power over them.
Right. That's a good point.
And I wonder if Ripley's seen that and thought, no, this needs to end. Because even the way that she speaks to Sullivan, he's like, right, okay, we're going to go and can you imagine starting a new job, or you've got a new boss coming in and your boss says, right, come on then, we'll go and have a little meeting. And then you go, no, our shift doesn't start for 10 minutes, so I'm just going to go and have something to eat. Really? Really, Andy? Save that shit for week 2, not literally day 1. So So I think that kind of maybe says it all as to why things need to be shifted around, why things need to change. So I wonder if
Yeah.
that's kind of then saying to us that the band is going to be kind of broken up, or that it's going to be
Yeah.
reconfigured in a way.
It's about to be a whole new ball game.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, I wondered that. But shall I just get my neggy stuff out of the way about Andy? Because I feel like if we get the neggy stuff out of the way, then we can
Sure.
talk about the positive stuff. Um, how out of order was she with Ryan? Or is it just me that she was being out of order with Ryan?
I don't know. I mean, I think if it were me, I would have wanted to know I would have been quite upset if they would have known that my mom was in that situation and not told me. Like, I think that would have bothered me quite a bit. So I understood her frustration being upset.
The way that I saw it, when Pruitt phoned him, all he said was, I don't really feel well. I don't think I should be driving to the hospital. But don't tell Andy. So Andy had just arrived at the skyscraper. There was no way she was going to be able to get out of work, and it didn't seem that dire at the time. So
Yeah, but looking at Pruitt, who always downplays being sick, in my opinion, for him to call for help to get to the hospital, he must have felt pretty bad
there's that.
because up, yeah,
But also, it wasn't just like a normal day at work where Andy could just leave. And that was a
I get what you're
massive
saying. She's not
fire.
going to leave the skyscraper.
No, and so if she can't focus on the job at hand if she's worried about her dad. And at that time, there was nothing to worry her. There was no reason to worry her because he was awake, he was conscious, he was talking. Ryan couldn't see that he was sweaty, and he couldn't see what we could see, that he was in a really bad way. All he knew
Hmm.
was that and the fact that Pruitt said, "Oh, I don't want to pull an ambulance away." So it wasn't bad enough that he'd like hit 999. Like, oh, I was going to say 999. That's English. That he hadn't hit 911, or anything, or he hadn't, phoned the hospital. He just said, "Oh, can you give me a lift?" And I know that Pruitt downplays things, but there was nothing. There wasn't enough there, I don't think, at that time, worthy of putting Andy's life at risk by worrying her so that she couldn't focus on the job at hand. When they got to 19 and Pruitt had collapsed, he immediately tried to get hold of Andy, and then he was phoning and phoning and phoning and phoning and phoning which we know because we saw him keep phoning her, and Maya brought the phone over and saying, your phone's going off non-stop. So as soon as he realised it was as bad as it was, he phoned her. So he was only abiding by Pruitt's request. It would have been really dangerous to tell Andy about that and have her panicking at the skyscraper. And what a terrible thing to try and protect somebody. Like, I just thought she was out of order.
I could just see myself have been irritated too. Like, even if he just said to her, "Hey, I just want you to know your dad called me. He wants to go to the hospital. So I'm going to go take him. So when you get off shift, if, maybe you might want to stop by the hospital." It could have been something as simple as that.
But imagine there's someone that you love dearly who is really quite sick because he's got cancer, and you're about to go and do something mega dangerous, and you don't know when you're going to be able to get yourself out of that situation. And someone says to you, oh, said person that you love just needs a lift to the hospital, so you might want to stop by the hospital when you're done. Bye! And leaves. Now, where's your head at?
I understand what you're saying. I'm just selfishly, I would want to know.
So you'd rather be doing the mega, mega, mega dangerous thing, panicking, not knowing what the medical update is on your beloved person for all those hours and not focusing on what you need to be focusing on.
Yes.
Yeah, see, I'd rather, because you know what a worrier I am. You know how
Yeah.
how panicky I get. And if I knew that someone that I loved was in any sort of medical distress, even if someone said, don't worry about it, there's no way that my head would be in the game. I'd just be running all of the scenarios, and I would, yeah, I just can't concentrate on that. I would rather not know. Like, just don't tell me anything until you've got something concrete to tell me, because otherwise I'm just gonna be panicking. And in my job it's fine. If I lose a case, I lose a case. No one's gonna die. I'm not going to die. My clients aren't going to die.
Right.
My job is not life and death.
Right.
But in Andy's case, she could die and other people could die. And also Pruitt said, please don't. So poor Ryan's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
I know.
But we can disagree on that. We can disagree on stuff. But
yeah.
But I just think he's done the right thing. And I think that she's out of order.
Okay.
How about the revelation that Andy never wanted to be a firefighter?
Yeah, that was surprising, wasn't it?
It's surprising knowing her now.
Yeah.
But then when she says to Maya, oh, well, my dad wouldn't run hoses with me until I'd passed the academy because he wanted to know that I was serious about it. That then kind of makes more sense if it was just like a sudden interest.
Right.
And maybe that's why she was so quick to collapse on the floor, was that she didn't actually realize how hard it was, and her heart wasn't really in it. She was just doing it for her dad's benefit. So maybe it's something that she's grown to love rather than something that she feels she was born to do. Anything more to say about Andy?
Nope.
Ben? Should we talk about Ben?
Sure.
Poor bloody Ben. Talk about careful what you wish for.
Yeah, that was rough for Ben. Poor guy.
Started the day saying, I can't wait to pull up to the hospital with my victim in the back that I rescued. Miranda's going to see me pull up. I want it to be something gnarly that she's going to really enjoy working on. I mean, that was literally exactly what he got. But he obviously hadn't factored in the humanity of his victim in his daydream.
Right. Yeah, that was rough. Poor Ben.
And then for it to turn out the way that it did, that he'd made a calculated decision based on what he thought, well, what he and Travis thought. I mean, Travis was the one that said, leave me. So he and Travis worked out who they thought had the best medical odds. And then it was Molly that ended up dying. And then Travis's chances turned out to be a coin toss. So that must have been like playing on his mind horrendously. And then for Vic to treat him the way that she treated him.
Yeah.
How did you feel about all that stuff with Vic and the way she was with Ben?
I understood. I think she was a little bit rough with him. Um, but I understood her feelings. I just think she could have been a little bit more understanding a little bit earlier on. So I was happy to see that she kind of pulled it together and came to him and, apologized and saw
Yeah,
it for what it was. So I liked that scene quite a bit.
I thought she was actually quite quick to soften. I was impressed at how quickly she came round.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that she'd let him off the hook a lot quicker than she might have done. As soon as she heard that Molly died, she walked up to him straight away, and then went after him
Yeah.
when he walked away. And I think that was as close to an apology as she's ever going to give, saying, "I think I was a bit harsh on you before."
Right. Yeah.
But I just feel like I need to give Barrett Doss like a standing ovation for her work in this episode.
Yeah.
I think if I was Jason George, and I mean, it's acting, right? But if I was Jason George and I'd had Barrett Doss shoot me that look that she shot him in the hospital over Grant's shoulder when she said he'd almost bled out by the time I got to him. The contempt on her face, I think I would have just felt sick.
Yeah. She's definitely a good scene partner for sure.
Yeah, I just thought she was fantastic. And actually, I think I want to add a new category to our roundup questions that we do at the end based on Barrett Doss's performance in this episode. And actually Jodie Fisher's performance, which is I think I want to nominate an MVP of every episode.
Ah, okay.
What do you reckon?
So your MVP would definitely be Barrett Doss.
I think in this episode she would share it with Jodie Fisher, who's the actor that plays
Okay.
Molly's mum.
Okay.
I think everything that she did was gold. And I loved all of her stuff with Jason George.
Yeah. I loved the scenes with her and Jason George too. They were
Yeah,
really good.
just absolute. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, that's Jodie Fisher. Because I watched Ellen DeGeneres' sitcom when she had a sitcom back in the 90s. Of course I did, because I was a baby gay.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And Jodie Fisher played Ellen's best friend on the sitcom, Paige.
Oh, okay.
So I only know her as a comedic actress because obviously it was a sitcom. And so
Okay.
Paige was just always just very cutting and silly. And that she's got the range that she can do this and make me cry. I was just really pleasantly surprised. But I thought that she was fantastic. And so yeah, I think that Molly's mum, Jodie Fisher, and Barrett Doss would get my MVP award for this episode.
Okay.
I think for me, I think I've probably said all I want to say about the episode. How about you? Anything else that you want to pull out?
Nope, I don't think so.
Shall we do our usual wrap up then, our usual roundup?
Let's wrap it up.
So, again, for me, nothing thematic, all just dramatics.
Yes.
Do you agree? No themes?
Yes, because it was very similar to the finale for sure.
Yep. Your takeaways, what are you looking forward to springboarding from this episode going forward?
Seeing more of Sullivan and how he interacts with the team and seeing how things go with Travis coming back to work eventually.
Yep.
Um, it's probably it. Just seeing how the team reacts to Sullivan, I think, is the biggest one.
That's exactly what I've put. I just put how Sullivan's
Yeah.
arrival is going to reshape the station.
Hmm.
And then, did you think anyone had growth in this episode?
Um, Probably Vic had growth
Yeah.
with Ben. That's probably the biggest growth I saw.
Funnily enough, that's what I said as well. And I didn't know if it was growth necessarily, or whether she just learned some hard truths, but then I guess you grow
Yeah,
from learning hard truths.
yeah,
But I think that she
yeah,
probably learned that not everything is black and white through her conversations with Ripley
right,
and Ben.
right. Yep.
So I agreed with you. Um, did you think that there was a best scene, or did you have a favourite scene?
Mm, I don't know if I had a favorite scene. There were so many good scenes in this one. Probably when Vic told Ripley off. I really liked Vic. I really liked Vic in that scene when she told Ripley off.
Yeah, it was a good one. It's funny because last episode you said who did I think was the best actor in the show, and without hesitation I said
Yeah,
Danielle and Stefania, and then I said closely followed by Barrett Dost. But I think after seeing this episode, I'm gonna put her way up there with them,
yeah,
and probably say it's level peggings really.
right.
But yeah, no, that was a really great scene. I liked all of the stuff between Molly's mum and Ben. I couldn't really
Yeah,
choose between those scenes, but everything with them I thought was brilliant and emotional. And then,
yeah.
did you have a favourite line or a favourite piece of dialogue?
Um, I think my favorite dialogue was either Vic yelling at Travis as she was pulling him down the stairs, just like
Yeah,
talking to him,
yeah.
or when Dean talked to Jack when he was getting checked out.
Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went for the one that made me cry. I'm gonna do it again, and I'm not gonna cry this time. So when Molly's mum said, "I'm rooting for your guy," and Ben said, "I'm rooting for Molly,"
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was
Yep.
powerful.
Yeah, it was.
Loved it. And then I'm doing it. I'm sticking an MVP in there. It's our podcast. We can do what we want. So that's it.
We can.
We'll just put another category in because we make the rules. So you know my MVP. I'm gonna have Barrett Doss and Jolie Fisher share the award. Who would be your MVP of this episode?
I think either Barrett Doss or Jason George.
Good one. Yeah.
Yep.
And then for the first time since we've started this podcast, I do not have a most gifable moment. Do you have one?
I think mine would be when Jack says, "Thank you for not punching me."
Oh, with the not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he walks away and he's like, "Thank you for not punching me." I could see that being a gift. Like sending that to someone, like,
Yeah.
"Thank you for not punching me."
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you're always grateful to not be punched, right? It's always a good time.
Right.
Yeah, that was probably the most sort of light-hearted. I think there were only two light-hearted moments that I can think of off the top of my head, and that was that one, and then Maya saying, "Has he met you? You're always serious."
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
no, that
for
was a good
sure.
one. I'm glad that you could choose one. I'll just share yours then.
Okay.
And then usually I say, "Oh, next episode is 202, and this is what happens in that one." But we're not doing that next week, are we? We're going to do
No, we're
something.
not.
Going to do
We're
something
taking a break.
a
Yeah.
little bit different. So I shan't tell you what the synopsis is for the next episode.
Nope. It's a surprise.
It is indeed. So I think we've probably finished just about in time for you to go and get changed into your soccer mum outfit.
Yeah, I'm a soccer mom now.
Does that mean that you need to buy a minivan and some mum jeans and start wearing baseball caps? Is that? I think that's like the soccer
I
mum.
have the minivan. I need to get the baseball caps and I guess the outfit, but I have the minivan.
Excellent, excellent.
Yep.
All right. Well,
So
best of luck to Abe. He's gonna smash it.
thank you.
I can't wait to see a picture of him in his little kit.
Yep, I'll send you one.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to go and try and find something with an elasticated waist ready for dinner tonight.
Oh, yeah. Have fun.
Thanks ever so much. So I'll say bye bye for now. And it was lovely to see your face as always. And
You too. Thank you.
I'll see you soon for our surprise content.
Do-do-do.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's what they get.
That's all
That's
you
the
get.
singing
Dun,
they
dun.
get.
Do you think
Okay.
we're overselling this thing?
Yeah.
It's not that exciting, guys. But it's just not an
No,
episode
no,
breakdown.
just something different.
Yeah.
Just something different.
All right.
So,
All right.
okay.
Ciao for now, then, mate.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.